the purpose of this session then, decision support tools for a progressive potato business. What we're going to do, it's almost a rapid fire. We're going to go through some of the AHDB product range, and there are products that from time to time they get overlooked. So this is just a way to remind everybody what's going on, where they slot into businesses and how they help make us all fitter for the future, okay? And it's quite a mixed bag of things that we're going to showcase. So we're going to kick off with some messages from Glyn on how we message out some of our storage advice. And then we're going to have a look at skills and how that's developing within the sector. We're then going to run through the new levy payer data centre that was launched yesterday, so we'll showcase that as well. And then we'll have a look at some of the blight decision support tools, and then we're going to finish off with a roundup of Farm Bench and what that's all about. Okay, so the format is you're not going to see a lot from me. We're just going to run all of these sessions back to back. The presenters will come up, introduce themselves, and then talk a little bit about the product range, and we'll just keep it rolling. And if we've got questions, we'll take them all as one batch at the end, if that's okay with everyone. So we're going to kick off. Glyn is going to start us off with storage. Okay.
Thanks for that, Rob. I'm Glyn Harper from, oops, do we need the next? I'm not Adrian Cunnington. Unfortunately, he can't attend today. My name's Glyn Harper. I also work at Sutton Bridge Crop Storage Research. So we've just got a few minutes now where I can try to tell you how we can communicate best storage advice that we can provide to you as levy payers and growers. So mostly it surrounds decision support. So clearly that's a key part of any industry, is knowing what to do when problems arise. And particularly with crop storage, post-harvest can be a significant issue. So we operate a number of ways of providing advice. One is our is our storage advice line. So the number's on the board there, and you can find us by Googling us, or I'm sure there are plenty of ways of getting hold of us. But we can provide advice on the phone about store setup, store problems, sprout suppression, pathology, you name it, we'll give it a go. And if we can't answer it, we'll find somebody who can. And that's a free advice line. But increasingly, our advice is actually trying to do it online, as is everybody else. And so I'll just go through some of those key online advice opportunities there are. The first is the storage cost calculator. So it's really important to know how much your storage is actually costing. Are you actually able to make money when you're storing potatoes? And I think, unfortunately, it's an area that's lacking a little bit in the potato industry. So this is an online storage cost calculator. You can compare your storage costs if you input your own real-time data, and compare that with what we take as being industry average. So you'll know whether you're doing better or worse, and that will give you the opportunity to improve if you're doing significantly worse. Another area is to do with pathology, so diseases and defects of potato. So in particular, it's during storage rather than in field, but we're happy to give it a go for in field as well. Online, there are various. There's a pest and disease tool where it's relatively easy to be able to identify different diseases according to their visual symptoms. I would say that if you have any problems at all, please contact us at crop storage at Sutton Bridge, and we're happy to take real samples to help identify diseases and provide some options for control. Another one is the online store manager's guide. So this is a booklet that's been around for quite a long time now. It's been revised a couple of times, and it's about to be revised again next year. It's available online as a PDF, which is a big chunky document, and the revision will be much more interactive, so it will be much easier to approach. But just while this is up, we actually also offer a store manager's course, so that's where you get the opportunity to interact with staff at Sutton Bridge, and we will take you through fundamentals of crop storage, potato storage in particular, and we also have other KE events to do around crop storage. All right, I'm obviously got slightly out of phase there. We provide a potato store diary. That's really to do with CIPC applications, Sprouts Present, in which you can manually record your various events and store data, and that's going to be featured quite soon, for 2018 at least. That will be an electronic store diary available as an app, so that's a great benefit, I think. Coming soon. So this slide is up actually because Sutton Bridge is actually now part of one of the agri-tech centres. So it's got stores that have been provided by Innovate UK in essence to enable us to do work in collaboration with other CHAP partners, crop health and protection partners. And one part of that is we will have this mobile lab available at Sutton Bridge, which you or the staff at Sutton Bridge can use to help identify potato diseases, for example. And in future, I think we're going to be able to offer much more. So, for example, we've been able to using Innovate UK projects that Sutton Bridge has been involved in, we've been able to do some airflow modelling. So we're able to model the flow of air through a potato store and around and underneath boxes. And this will enable us to help optimise store layout. So I think in a few years' time we can look forward to being able to identify best practice in terms of store layout. And that will be an online offering, as it were. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name's Tess Howe, and I work for AHDB across all 6 sectors that we cover, looking at skills development and continuing professional development. We know now that one of the key factors holding back on productivity across the UK is our skills and levels of skills. And we could say technically we're very able, but one thing that we do seem to fall down as a generic across all sectors is our leadership and business management and sometimes people skills as well. And that's the main focus of my work and what I'll be talking about today. So one of the things that we have in the industry is lots of people get promoted purely because of their technical ability. And then suddenly they're in a new role and that they're having to manage people that they were once working with. And it can be quite an uncomfortable situation for a lot of people. We also know training is quite difficult to access. There's lots of barriers, there's lots of difficult to get off time, it's difficult to know where things are and how to access that training as well. So if people do get beyond what they have to do legislatively or what they have to do for their supply chain. They might get to an area where they want to train because they've got an interest, but is that really helping the business? And is that where that small amount of time that you can invest in training, is that best placed? Is that really going to move the business forward for the future? And what we see at the moment is quite a vicious circle of managers being promoted, not quite knowing what they should be doing. It leads to quite inefficient use of their time. From that, they then spend more time working in the business, jumping from problem to problem, solving things for other members of staff that perhaps if they were managed and coached properly, they would be able to deal with themselves. From that point, they're then not looking proactively at what could be involved. What we hear from a lot of managers is they do the management work at 5 o'clock in the office before the lads turn up, or they sit down and think about new ideas at 8 o'clock at night, which is not the most productive time for many of us. So if we can release that time from working in the business, and we can really move forward and be more proactive. If we're not moving our business forward and we're not looking for new initiatives and we're constantly frustrating the staff, then they start to lose motivation, and it's very difficult to get them productive. The business starts to fall behind, and we're in that vicious cycle. What happens then is staff leave. And recruitment then becomes another problem while we try to find someone. Not only are we spending time looking for someone, we're working back in the business again. So how can we as AHDB help farmers sort of release from this cycle and drive businesses forward? Because we know very clearly that if we're working in this day to day all the time, we're not going to drive forward, we're not going to be able to take on innovation, and we're not going to be resilient to the changes that are ahead of us. So what we are looking for now is an online tool called AgriSkills Progress, and the whole aim is developing people and businesses, and that doesn't matter what your starting point is, it's about moving forward and continuously striving to be better, to take on the innovation and move forward. Now, AHDB isn't the only person in this arena. There is lots and lots of people, and we're looking to bring those people together so that actually as a farmer, when you've decided that you need some training, there's a really simple one-stop shop for you to come into, log into the AgriSkills Progress Hub and find the information you need to find reasonably quickly without having to go through lots and lots of different links. So it's about joining lots of industry assets that are already there and then developing and filling in the gaps. It's not AHDB going out and deciding that we need to rewrite the whole rule book on HR and training and leadership, etc. There's an awful lot of good stuff out there. It's just how we help you access it simply. How will it work? I say it will be a landing page, most likely on the AHDB website. And from that landing page, you very simply be able to go off to the area that you can use. So we're looking at a voluntary system that's almost pick and mix toolkit for you. What is your purpose at that point in time, and how can you access that quickly? So it might be that you're already a member of a professional recognition scheme. It could be that you're a member of 2 or 3, and actually, rather than logging into each one of those websites, this scheme is looking to bring all that information together. It's also looking at what does make a good farm manager, what does make a good spray operator, a good stock person, etc. And actually by having those skills and the behaviours that are required and matching those to your training records previously, you can then start to look at what are the real training needs, and especially when that's combined with business visions and business planning as well. You then know what works for your business, and you then know which training program, and again there'll be another link that would then send you off to where is your local training, what's relevant for you, and it's up there because another farmer has used it, so you've got confidence that you're going for quality training as well. It could also be about looking about qualifications. Now, sadly, within agriculture, we don't have a lot of formal qualifications at the moment, and that is one of the biggest barriers we've got to the next generation. If parents, careers advisors look into agriculture and see no professional qualifications and no structure, they don't tend to send good quality people across to us. So by having those qualifications, we can all look at getting full recognition for the skills and abilities that we do all have. We wouldn't be running our businesses if we weren't skilled, but let's get recognition for that as well, and that could be in there too. And that will then help people look at professional development and their own career pathway as well. The main bit that AHDB will be focusing on, though, is the business support side. And what we're looking at is lots of businesses don't have the luxury of an HR department. They don't have the luxury of understanding that to recruit someone good, it's all about the advert, it's about the questioning in the interview, it's about giving them a good induction. We've often inherited staff, or we've had staff for an awfully long time. And it's how do we adapt to that change? Recruitment can be costly. They say it's about 1.5 times an annual salary if you have to recruit somebody. It also takes someone 26 weeks to come up to full scratch in your business. So we don't want to be losing people unnecessarily, but recruitment does give us opportunities for getting new people and looking to the future about the needs that we need going forward. Bob might have been the best spray driver ever, but actually, are we going to be spraying in the same way in 5 years' time? And do we really need a new Bob, or do we need to be looking at new skills that will actually take the innovation that we want to invest in and make the most of that? So we're looking at induction, employment contracts. The amount of times we hear people say, he's not very good, but I can't get rid of him because I need a body for harvest. But actually, that body for harvest could cost you tens of thousands of pounds by the mistakes that they make. So really knowing how you can manage your staff properly and what your rights are for keeping people and letting them go at some times. What we also need to do is really change the perception that training is a cost. We know that's where it sits in your budget lines, but it really is an investment in the same way that we invest in our tractors and we get them serviced, MOT'd, we get the engineer out if anything goes wrong. We need to do that with our people as well. We need to give them regular appraisals, find out what's making them tick, what's not making them tick at the moment, how we can motivate them, because they're the people that are going to release the most benefit out of all the innovation and the research and the knowledge transfer that you take on board and want to push forward in the business. So there'll be lots of examples, case studies of just exactly where those benefits are coming from and why we need to invest in people. And that's it in a nutshell. Sorry, Rob kept it quick. Thank you.
So, good afternoon. My name's Amber Cottingham, and I'm an analyst with AHDB in the Market Intelligence Department. I'm briefly going to whiz through sort of regular outputs and the regular surveys that we do, and then my colleague Vikki here is going to talk about the new potato data centre, which I'm hoping you'll all find very interesting. So these are the regular outputs that we have. So we have Potato Weekly, which is our weekly pricing output. It's collected from both growers and purchasers of potatoes. We have prices that cover the whole of the industry, all of the markets. And we collect those prices each week, either by a phone survey or some of the larger companies send their prices to us, which makes it an easier, quicker process for them. The next pricing survey we have is potato prices, which comes out on a Tuesday and is also known as WAPS. It's our weekly average price survey, and it produces two prices, an overall average market free-buy price, which includes prices for all the different markets, processing, packing, chipping markets, and then the overall average, which is a combination of the free-buy price and the contract price that we're getting in from those organisations. The purpose of this price is really to show the directional trend within the potato industry at that time. It doesn't tend to be very specific because it is looking at all of the different markets. The next one is the bi-monthly market dynamics report. This is basically a roundup of all the different analysis that we've been producing in the last 2 months. So it's your sort of one-stop shop to all the different areas that we've been looking at within the market intelligence team for potatoes. We also have our Consumer Insight newsletter, which is produced by the Consumer Insight team, and this is looking at retail information, information from processing and sales of potatoes, so looking at the other end rather than the farm gate end. So that's very interesting. And then the other big one is our GB Potatoes report, which has now been published and is available for this year on our AHDB mini site, which we've probably got the address for at the end of the presentation, so, or you'll be able to find it on the main website also. So that's our sort of large compendium of potato statistics, which we do each year, and covers everything from area statistics, planted area, area by variety, regional and sector breakdowns of area, looking at the production figures, trends in production, long-term, short-term, all the way through to the retailer, consumer end. So there's a multitude of interesting information in there that can help you to really understand the market that you're working with. So this is the other part of what we do, really. It's the industry estimates. So this is how we collect the information that we have. So the planted area estimate, this is the first one that we have each year, and this is collected from the levy forms that we get back in. So this is what's been put in the ground, and the first estimate usually comes out in June. Quite variable in terms of the time, depending on how quick harvest and how quick planting is. So, you know, we obviously have to wait for all the growers to be able to plant their crops. So if it's a bit later one year than it is another year, this can vary. The next one is the area by variety. So this is an update on the first one, and this talks about the area planted, but by a varietal breakdown. So we'll be able to look at sort of the top 50 varieties and see what those are, how they've changed year on year, and what the area is for those. So again, very interesting. And this is where the information for the area by region and sector comes in. So a very interesting view of the marketplace. Then we have the production estimate, which comes out usually late November, and we're working on it away at the moment back in the office, so this should be out in the next couple of weeks or so. And this looks at the total amount of potatoes that are going to be coming onto the market this season. And then as we get into the storage season, we have our stocks estimates. So this happens a couple of 3 or 4 times throughout the year, end of November, end of January, end of March, and this looks at the amount of potato stocks in grower-held stores. So it doesn't look at stores further up the chain, but it does give an idea of what's moving off-farm throughout the season. So again, a really useful tool if you're wanting to know what's going on in the marketplace. So that's it from me, and now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Vikki, and she'll tell you about Potato Data Centre.
Hi, so I'm Vikki Campbell. I'm a data and analysis manager within the market intelligence function, along with my colleague Amber. And I wanted to just introduce you to the Potato Data Centre today. So I'm not sure whether some of you have managed to have a chance to have a look at it on the stand. If you haven't, please, I'd encourage you to go there. So, a bit of background. The Potato Data Centre was developed to replace the aging grower panel website we had. And this previously served as the tool for collating and displaying the statistics such as prices, planted area, production and yield. We knew that the industry wasn't engaging with the grower panel, and then we also knew that the AHDB was in a unique position to provide, analyse, collate and visualise this industry information, which would enable stakeholders to greater understand what was happening in the sector. Hence, the Potato Data Centre was developed, and this was to serve as a one-stop shop to examine data on price, variety, planted area, market sector and yield, and compare this against previous seasons to help identify trends. So the next few slides show you just some of the outputs that we're starting to visualise on the Potato Data Centre. These data dashboards we produce all follow simple and easy to follow principles. At the top, we have headline figures, what's happening at the moment. Then we move down to analyse trends. How does the current state compare against the previous year or years? This is all displayed in a dynamic manner, which allows the user to select years which are the most interest or importance to them. Finally, and I'm afraid the screenshot doesn't show quite this far down, that's where we've got the more detailed data. So this can be downloaded by users if you want to manipulate it yourself. Devil's often in the detail, so this functionality is provided as well. And we hope by giving the user these different visualizations of this data, we hope to prompt insight, debate, further analysis to help develop greater understanding of the sector. The Potato Data Centre allows us to present up-to-date data. And prices, for example, these are updated on a weekly basis, so it's always relevant. The WAPS pricing and the Potato Weekly pricing, when that will come online, will be there in a relevant and timely manner to allow users to make up-to-date decisions. In addition to prices, the Potato Data Centre also displays the latest information on area by variety, region and sector. So, for example, this variety dashboard allows the user to track the progress of individual varieties. Their planted area and rank for the current year is displayed, with the visual representation of this allowing users to easily see which are the more popular varieties and how they're changing over time. There is the functionality to drill down into particular varieties' performance. This will show their rank and planted area and how it's changed over the past 5 years. This dashboard also, if you flick on the dynamic buttons, displays variety by sector. Which varieties are the most popular for which intended market sectors? How is this changing over time? This is the type of data that this is starting to visualize for you. We also have planted area by region. This allows users to see how their region's planted area has changed over time, how this compares with other regions. And once the production estimate has been released in the next week or so, this data will also be included so we can start to see production estimates by region as well and how this is changing. This allows a clear view of how planting and production is changing by region over time. Finally, the last currently published dashboard, and I do stress that because this is in its infancy at the moment and will be being developed as we move forward. This displays planted area by sector. Here, this clearly shows how the area by sector has changed over time and differs by region. At the top, again, the headline figures display the intended market sector split for the current year, which may impact your business and highlight your decisions based on this information. As I've previously mentioned, all these dashboards are dynamic, and this allows users to select years, varieties, regions that are the most relevant to you, so it's very customizable. But I suppose importantly, it's, well, how's this going to help me? And I think this is one of the key questions that we all ask ourselves. And this just highlights just some of the ways this can help you. By giving you insights into prices and answering or help to answer questions such as, what are the trends? Are the prices higher or lower than last week? What about my varieties? What sectors are they used for? Is their planting area increasing or decreasing? Looking at planted and production levels, what might this season's supply be? And how does this compare to previous years? This is just some of the insight and analysis. This is hoping to spark these debates. So finally, you can find Potato Data Centre at this URL. Also within your packs and around the show, we've had these, and this will assign you to our mini sites, which is also going to be at the end of this whole presentation, and it can be downloaded on there. It's a platform which is going to continue to be evolved over time. We'll continue to refine and add to the offering, developing as more information becomes available and the feedback we receive from users. So finally, thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy exploring the Potato Data Centre.
So I'm Claire Hodge. I am a Knowledge Exchange Manager up in Scotland. I'm going to talk to you about our Fight Against Blight service that we have refreshed last year. We do actually have a couple of blight services that we run, but this is probably the most relevant one and the one that we've been putting most amount of work into over the last 12 months. This is a service that we use to try and help growers and agronomists to address issues in the area, to share information, and it's a real network that has proven successful for over 14 years now. Something that's developed because growers really do need to know what's happening in their area, and it's a really unique system where people can share information with each other. what we had was a system that was outdated. I wanted to look at a few different ways that we could update it and work with other people to make sure that we're making this useful for the industry. So just kind of some of the priorities of what we wanted to look at. To look at improvements to see how we can make this more up-to-date service and kind of, as we were talking about, an agile service that could be kind of used by growers, give them some more control over their own information and kind of have some reflection over seasons as they look at what data they've uploaded. So first of all, we wanted to make sure the system worked. So we wanted to make sure that while you are in a field and you see blight, you can actually access that service even without a signal. You can make sure you can send a sample into the labs and get results back quickly. I thought it was something useful was to make sure that we could capture images so we could start to share information. One of my concerns is we have a lot of allotment tiers. This is a risk. This is something that we have crops or potatoes growing in areas which are not agronomists, who are not experts. So I thought it was a unique thing to add, to have images included so we can start to see what people are actually seeing in the field. We introduced a auto-locate, so you can actually just auto-locate where you are, so there's no need to start doing postcodes, which personally I used to find quite frustrating to remember where I was sometimes in a field. Postcodes can change. And back to wanting to give people ownership of their information. You can log into an account and you're kind of in charge of your own info. What we wanted to look at is how a grower actually engages with this, or agronomist, and how they use it. So one of the big things that I've introduced is that you can, that old seasons information isn't lost, so you can start to see what was there, what happened up like last year. You can start to see what happened. It will be endless, so we can see from 2017 we will be able to start to see forward what has happened in areas. So we'll be able to start to compare what has happened in blight over the seasons. Something that we have been working really closely with the James Hutton Institute is the change in this season has been very much about blight. So we have introduced the James Hutton criteria, and we have also had some different strains come in. So this has been a season to really put blight at the forefront. And something I was interested in looking at is how we can actually start to access that weather information. And how can we introduce that? So at the moment we have 100 weather stations around the country, and I want to overlay that into this service, although we continue to run the Blight Watch service, which gives you your Met Office data, and it is allocated to your postcodes, and you can still sign up for that. But I think there's progress that we could make to start to integrate this. So this service starts to introduce it, and we can start to see what the weather situation was when the outbreaks occurred. You can also filter for date ranges, which starts to give you an idea of something that's quite interesting is when does blight start in each area and when was the first occurrence. So I think it's really important that people can look back at the data that is interesting to them. I get a lot of stuff about, the early season down in Cornwall. That's really important that those guys can understand what's happening in their area. And then I also mentioned about how we have we still have allotment tiers, so you can filter out their data or filter in their data. So you can start to see what is happening where, what kind of crops, if it's not just a commercial crop, if it's a ware crop, what kind of varieties are in there. So we can start to really access data which is relevant to you personally, not just what the national picture is. And we can go from that. So the big thing is about being able to use this and make it accessible. So once we refreshed the website this season, at the end of the season we managed to get a blight app which was available to all growers and agronomists. This allowed us to really take the system forward. You can use this, it's really easy to access, it's on Apple and Android. This allows us to be able to go into field, take a photo of the leaf in the field, get an ID number, fill your pack out and then send it in the post. And then what you end up with is a really accessible information tool on your phone in the field. So you can see what's going on, you can see where else there'd be issues. So it allows us to make this much more accessible to growers. We did have some issues with text messages in the past, so this takes away all this and allows us to continue to develop it. And please do register. It's quite a simple process. You just have to register on our website first of all to get kind of login details, and then you can download the app, which then connects all your information. So if you log something onto the website, you will still see the data on your app. So it all's interconnecting. They're not two separate systems. You'll get report incidents across to you, and then you'll receive your ID numbers. So it's an all-in-one service for this. So the next part of this is that the monitoring is really, really important. We've seen this season with the EU37 strain come into the UK. And one of the big unique things about this is that we're sharing information, and we're sharing the potential of risk amongst the industry. And this network is actually allowing us to engage in a lot of the discussions that are happening in Europe as well. And I think we've done something quite novel this year in being able to react to an issue. And it highlights the importance of the genotyping that we do at James Hutton Institute. So what we've been able to do is to get out information in season. And ultimately the important thing is that we can't do this. We can't put these alerts out, and we can't know what the conversation is going to be unless we collect the samples. So the work that the Blight Scouts are doing in season, even if you know that it is blight, understanding what the genotype is so important to how we plan for the season ahead. So we have managed, we've got many years of data. I think we've got about 12 years of data on the genotyping, so we can see how that changes over the years, and this year has highlighted why that is so important. We can plan for the next season, we've been able to get in-season updates, and we can respond to change. And this dialogue we have not just within the UK, not just between what's in the field next door to you, it's what's happening on the continent as well. And this new service that we've developed allows us to continue to make changes, to continue to adapt the tools that you have available to make sure we can respond to these issues. My biggest message is to make sure you sign up for this service. It's important to share information, even if you know what it is, even if you're confident it's blight or it's the end of the season. We need to make sure we continue to log this data, make sure that we know what's out there and what risk could be potentially ahead of us. So just log on to our website and you'll get access to it. And yeah, back to our capturing as much information as possible. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Doreen Anderson. I'm the Farm Benchmarking Manager for the UK, and I lead up a team of regional benchmarking officers throughout the whole of the UK and encourage people to take part in their benchmarking groups. So just thinking about what benchmarking actually is, and the definition is the process of being able to compare one's business processes to performances against others. So Farm Bench is the tool that we use in order that everybody's gathering the data and uploading the data in the same way so that you can all be comparable. So the more comparable that you are, then the more that you can compare and the more you can learn from each other. The way that we're working that just now in other sectors within, as well as the potatoes, but also the arable, is the benchmarking groups that we run. We're just doing Harvest 17 just now with the arable business groups over the UK, so which means that because it's Harvest 17 that we're looking at, it's really up to date, so that it actually gives you a better insight to cost of production from what's just happening now, and also builds up the confidence that you could actually budget for the next harvest coming as well. So the way that we do that is using Farm Bench. Farm Bench is being put together. We've been doing benchmarking for quite a while within AHDB, but it was all disjointed. So we've brought it all together as one, which gives a fantastic opportunity to do multi-enterprise. So it's actually looking at mixed farms. So if you have livestock as well as potatoes as well as arable, you have the chance to put in all of that data and bring out everything individually to each enterprise. So you can actually hone right into each enterprise and start looking at little bits of your business rather than look at the whole big picture. So at the moment, we've got livestock, beef and lamb, we have the arable, combinable, and we have potatoes in there with dairy coming on next year. So why Farm Bench? What's the advantage of that above everything else? As I say, the multi-enterprise, the opportunity to look at it at enterprise level. The reports are generated in per enterprise, per hectare, per tonne. On the livestock, it's if it's per you put to the top. And you start looking more at down to individual enterprises. You're comparing against yourself. You get the chance to compare regionally. You can get to compare within the group. You can look at it against nationally as well. But more importantly, if you do this over a number of years, you can get to actually see what improvements you're making and how that's helping the bottom line. And it goes not just to gross margin, but it goes right down to net margin as well. So how to register? You simply log on to FarmBench. It's there, it's live, it's a live website. You log in, you register, log on, keep your password, and just off you go. It's there. It's actually on demo if you want to have a look at it on the stand as well. That's me. I did keep that short and sweet.
Wow, well, there's a real breadth of stuff going on within AHDB, so there could be a breadth of questions. They could come from anywhere. That's really down to you. But I think you've got a resource here. You know, as levy payers, you are paying for the development of these services. Yeah, let's see if we've got any questions at this stage. We should have a roving mic somewhere. Oh, no. Right. Any questions? No, I think it's getting close to home time, I think. So you're off the hook, panel. Listen, I think just from me, just a couple of comments from me then, just to wrap things up. There might be things that you do already. Okay, some of you will be Blight Scouts, some of you participate in the scheme. There may be things that you think you do. So I always have a conversation with growers about, do you know your costs of production? And they all say yes. And I say, but do you know whether you're in that top quartile? Not so sure. Do you know whether you're using the same accounting system as somebody else within your producer group? Well, and then what it feels like to me is we're trying to climb the Tower of Babel, and that the language just disintegrates when we start to try and compare some of these things. So, if you haven't thought of doing any of these things before, then give them a go. Okay, have a look at the data centre, have a look at the Blight tool, dig into FarmBench, and just have a general look around the website. Okay. More crucially, though, let us know what you think. Development only comes through a conversation, and if we want to push these projects on further, faster, harder, make them more efficient, then we have to hear from you. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to formally close the 2017 seminar sessions. I hope you've had a great time in Harrogate. Just remember, all the information we've put out over the last 2 days, you'll find it all on the microsite. The microsite URL is on the back of Bud the Spud that came in the plastic bag you were given when you came in the event, either this morning or yesterday. Now, there are some feedback forms on your chairs, so if you can spare a couple of minutes before you hit the traffic, just give us some comments on what you've thought of this session, and one more round of applause for our speakers, please. Thank you.